Hello, welcome to this very special ORG podcast. My name is Cade. My wife and I own a small ortho lab out here in the country in North Texas, and I'm very excited about this. I'm one of the random co-hosts of this random ORG podcast. But I wanted to put this together, and I'm glad Don and Jessie and Laura decided to do this. But I want to get started because we had a lot to talk about before I pushed live. So I want to bring them aboard. First off, I want to thank Jessie and Don. Thanks for giving us your insight on this and joining us for the podcast. I guess the weather down there in Florida is good, right?
It's great.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I think we're in the 30s still in Texas, and we got more to come. But before I start asking my questions from you, I want to also introduce Laura Sheppard. Laura's up in Michigan, right?
Yeah, single digits.
Single digits. Oh, yeah, I don't have anything to complain about.
Northern Michigan, Traverse City.
You're at National Dentex in Baker,
DH Baker Laboratory.
Okay, that's right. And the reason we brought her aboard is Don on the Facebook group. Let's see if I can bring this up. He posted, and let me put this on here. He had an FDA inspection, and I think this is December 3rd. I know the description, I said late December, but December 3rd, he had a description. Laura had a great post in there, said that you have been involved in set through or managed 7 FDA inspections. Is that right?
Correct.
That's right. So there's a lot of insight here. But the most important question, my icebreaker question, is asked by somebody we probably all know, but he shall remain nameless. Don and Jessie, would you rather have an FDA inspection or a colonoscopy?
Without a doubt, a colonoscopy.
I think in your post,
prep is easier.
I think in your post you mentioned something about a Christmas tree enema or something like that. You'd rather have that than an FDA inspection. But getting started, it all starts with a phone call, right? Was this a phone? You took lead on this. You got a phone call, a letter, email?
Yeah, just a phone call on a Thursday, a seemingly normal Thursday afternoon. We're in December, our busy month, and we're already kind of in the middle of working on a bunch of changes with our UPS, and then out of nowhere we get the call on a Thursday that the FDA inspection will start next week. It will be anywhere from 5 days to 2 weeks, depending on how much. I wasn't a part of the call. I couldn't get a hold of my dad for a while, and I'm buzzing him, trying to get a hold of him. And I guess the FDA inspector was describing the military uniform he was going to be wearing to my dad for a solid 25 minutes or so. Right, Dad?
Yep.
And, it kind of threw us through a loop, but that's how we found out just, hey, I'm going to be there in 3 days. And that was pretty much all the heads up we got.
So if we don't answer phone calls, we're good, right? This will never happen if we don't answer a phone call.
Yeah, correct.
It's like being served.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you don't admit who you
Don't
are,
check the papers.
got the wrong number. You don't have to wear your military outfit. We're good here.
So in the phone call with him, besides his uniform, he gave me told me if I wanted to do a little homework to get ready to look up the 21 CFR Part 803, which is 25 pages of links to questions and answers. So we did this. We went through this. Jessie and I each printed this off and split it in half and went through it. And we thought we were going to be in pretty good shape. We have been proactive with the process. This is our manual. You can just kind of see how.
Yeah, that's pretty extensive.
And we thought we were going to be okay. We knew we were going to be weak on our record keeping because Laura will share with us, I'm sure, how much record keeping is required, and it's extensive. We knew we'd be a little weak on our record keeping, especially since COVID. Records, like Jessie and I are supposed to keep records on each other, on our conversations.
I don't get that one.
Yeah, it's like
that
or
one was silly.
Thanksgiving.
He really told you that.
Did he really say that, the inspector?
Yeah, he said, why aren't there management meeting notes? And I said, well,
Oh.
me and my dad run the company. We drive to work together. We talk about it constantly, even on the weekends. And he said, you should be writing down these conversations, which is odd to me because there's like Don showed, we just have a binder. If we were talking about maybe firing somebody or something, why would we write that down where an employee could access that in writing? Just very, very strange, arbitrary rules. It kind of seemed like, but he was dead serious about all of that.
Laura, is this something you've heard before?
Well, so the management meeting and the management review is something that, there's mine.
Oh my goodness.
Management review meeting. It should occur once or twice a year.
Yep.
Where you go into a meeting, you just kind of talk about what's going on, maybe what your plans are for the future, maybe employees or whatever. You document the minutes. You have to post the minutes to each other. You have to document the minutes. You have to sign a document that says you were both there. And then you put what you talked about in there. You're supposed to do that every year. That's all he needed, was just to see that little book that said, this is our management review meetings.
And he probably wouldn't even read into them, just know that it's there.
Yep.
You got physical papers.
Yep.
Could any of this be digital?
Yep.
Open up a file on your computer and here's
the only
all.
problem with digital is when we do audits, we make sure that they have a place, whether it's a cafeteria or an office to themselves, so that he doesn't have access to other things.
Ooh.
And just has the DAMAS or all of your notebooks in there for them to reference. But you could give him a computer, but I'd give him a computer where he's logged in as a guest and put that information on there. You don't want them to have access to your computer.
That's an excellent point. Now, going on with, do you know why? Did he explain why? I don't want to use the word targeted. Why you were picked? Was it a lottery style or a report or what? I mean, Jesse, do y'all know why?
We figure it's because I think about 4 years ago, maybe it was 5, we registered our 510K for our clear aligners. Don's holding it up here.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot of work to get approved.
Oh, so much
Rigorous testing and measurements and everything like that. Also a ton of money, of course, because it's kind of what it all comes down to. They want money. And so we knew once we registered with that, because it was class 2 and everything, eventually this would probably happen. We just kind of were hoping it just wouldn't ever
fly
happen.
under the radar, so to speak. Yeah.
Especially based on our size and everything. And the fact that even in our writing for our 510K, we only specialize in really quick treatment goals, like aligning anterior teeth. We're not trying to change anything posterior or occlusally. And that's all within the 510K, that it's just these really quick cosmetic fixes, about 5 clear liners each arch. So we thought, they probably got bigger fish to fry.
Right.
And I guess maybe they got bored. Maybe they had to meet a quota. I don't know what, but we believe that's probably why they came and saw us.
Laura, you mentioned something about a quota in your comment.
Yeah, I mean, so I talked to one of my investigators one time, one of our auditors at one of the audits I'd sat through. And, it was one of the more amicable conversations that we had. They're pretty rare. But I asked him, how do you determine where you go and who you audit? And they said, well, you do have a territory. You do have an area, and it could be a 3-state area. I mean, and some areas are hotbeds for medical device. I mean, literally they could spend all day in these huge facilities and these huge industrial places. But sometimes you're in the country and you're looking for anything you can find. And so it depends on what's in your area and where they are, but I'm not even sure if that could just be her opinion. That could be an opinion. I don't know factually if that's true. Kind of made sense.
I guess they just get sent. They get the marching orders from higher up.
Yeah.
And they go visit Inman Orthodontic Lab in Florida and check on their 501.
Yeah, and that's difficult for them because it's much easier for them to go to these big companies who are ISO registered and understand what an SOP is. We may call them a work instruction. They're calling them an SOP. I have an SOP notebook that's as big as Don's whole notebook with just SOPs. So, I mean, they want to talk ISO language. And yes, the ISO language follows the code Title 21, Part 820, that they asked you to review. But the language is completely different. If you don't understand their language. So I wound up, even though I was DAMA certified and I was one of the beginning labs to train and get everybody DAMA certified, the DAMA system does not really speak the same language. So I had to do kind of a glossary of terms between DAMA and FDA so that they would understand on their own without me having to be spoon feeding them through their entire thing.
So you put everything in parentheses, work schedule, and then like SOP, and had to.
Exactly. So, yeah.
So Don, y'all are registered. Do y'all have any? You have the 501?
We have the 510K for our clear aligners.
510K, yeah.
And then we're registered as a type 1 device for the Inman power component. And I was asking Laura earlier, and she said we really don't need to be registered with them for that. And then I think we've been a PerioProtect contract manufacturer for like 25 years. And I think that's how it all started with us in the FDA, because I think PerioProtect required us to be registered to be one of their contract manufacturers.
So do you manufacture it?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't manufacture the IPC, the Inman power component. That's actually made by Leone for us in Italy. But the PerioProtect trays, yeah, we've been doing for a long time.
Okay. And what are they categorizing PerioProtect? Class 1?
It's a class 1 medical device. So it is because it's think of a fluoride tray, but the goal is because it looks like a fluoride tray or a mouth guard. The goal of the PerioProtect tray is to drive medication up into the sulcus and then hold it there, defeating the crevicular flow. So it's pretty clever, and they work amazing. I mean, it's if you ever get bored and you want to Google something, Google PerioProtect and look at the science behind it. They have a lot of competitors now because the patents have fallen off. A matter of fact, Space Maintainers has their own version of it. What was the company out in California, that big lab in California?
No, they were in Canada, right?
Yeah. I'm not, but there's a few big labs that have started their own version of it. But it's a medicine delivery device, basically.
So, Laura, talking about these different types of devices, and I think we touched on this a little bit. Are aligners more scrutinized than sleep devices? I think those are kind of the two big ones, right? That you need 510Ks.
I think the sleep devices are much more scrutinized
than
the aligners. The aligners, like we had discussed a little earlier, I don't know how the aligners suddenly caught someone's attention at FDA. My impression is that somebody decided they wanted a 510K on it. Just
so, like I say,
maybe from a marketing standpoint or from a look at us, we're very compliant and we can use that tagline in our sales. We're FDA registered and, that sort of thing. And once that happened, it kind of opened the door for everybody. But I will say that sleep appliances are much more regulated. you do have to be more careful if you're going to get into sleep appliances and follow those rules. More, I would say, audits occur with them, but again, I don't work for the FDA, so I'm not 100% sure on that. They don't post that information that I'm aware of. But to Don's point, and your point, as far as a class 1, everything else we make is class 1.
Holly retainers,
class
RPEs,
1, crown, everything is a class 1. So why are we? Did Space Maintainers, who's now doing a sort of a Perio Protect, are they also registered? I bet not. I mean, they might be registered for other things. As you know, they'll do sleep appliances, but I'm not so sure that the class 1s, you don't have to register for that.
Thank goodness. let's keep it that way. That would okay. So I want to get to what was it like the first day? So was it a Monday? Did the guy walk in full military?
Had to be a Monday.
Just salute it. Yeah, it had to be a Monday.
Yeah, so it came in on a Monday, and right away he introduced himself to the people that work near the front entrance, and then basically immediately made me provide them with their full names, including their middle names, and started jotting it down in a journal. And that's when I kind of knew that this was going to be like the worst 2 weeks ever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Really quickly, I was like, I thought maybe my dad was kind of being overreactive to how bad this FDA inspection was going to be. And I think he undersold how painful.
Christmas cinema.
Yeah.
What did he dive into first? Like, what did he ask for something right off the bat?
So we were trying to be very accommodating up front, and we set him up with a station, kind of where he could see the workflow and see kind of because we thought we were so incompliant that we had nothing to hide. Almost, we're like, oh, we'll set him up in basically an office that mirrors this, where he could see the workflow, see that we do everything up to specs, OSHA regulations, everything. And quickly he demanded that he was like alone by himself in a lunchroom, and he just kept the lunchroom is upstairs. We tried setting it up near the copy machine that's downstairs because we knew he's gonna have to make copies. And I think he enjoyed making us run up and down the stairs for 8 hours a day, going back and forth to the copy machine, because he would ask for copies, then throw them back at us and say that's not what he wants, and then he would just ask them again. Like,
oh gosh.
It was just everything with him. And we had asked a few colleagues of ours what their inspections were like, and some of theirs were the guy just wanted to see how it was made and that everything was being followed by the SOPs and by the 510K. Our inspector was all about paperwork. So we set him up with a binder, and then like Don showed off the humongous binder, and we kind of thought we were covered in there. We knew maybe some of the record keeping we didn't keep up with over the years. But he started picking apart little issues constantly. And then that's when we started to have to trade off with him, because we thought he says 5 days to 2 weeks. Maybe this will be 2 or 3 days, but he was looking at every single sentence and critiquing it to a T, which is his job. You know, I respect that it is his job, but it was really intense, like right off the bat.
Y'all, we were talking before we went live. Y'all were kind of wanting to tag team him a little bit, you know, you as the owner, as the manager, office manager too. There was a third.
Yeah. She actually was given the responsibility to handle the FDA and the OSHA. We had somebody else that had left us in August. So she had just left in August. So our office manager took it over, but she had not become familiar with it. And I don't blame her. You know, it's a lot to try to learn. We didn't have any warning the other girl was leaving us. And she handled all this since we began it. So our process began like Laura's, where we were going for our DAMAS certification. And DAMAS certification is strictly, what does DAMAS stand for, Laura? Dental Appliance Manufacturing?
Yeah, Dental Appliance Manufacturing Audit System.
Audit system. So we went that direction instead of a different way, because it just made more sense to us that we're a dental lab, let's do the dental process. And they discontinued DAMAS about, I don't know, a couple years into our process. So,
you broke them.
Yeah, why did it go away, Laura?
Honestly, I was unaware that it went away, because right up to 2000, I mean, the last time I had a DAMAS, an FDA inspection was when I had my own lab, so it'd be 2017 or 18. So I don't know if it discontinued after that. I have no idea. But yeah, DAMAS, the United States unregulated laboratories had no system in place, and Europe had a system in place that was DAMAS. And our government was making noise, and then came lead-in crowns. And when lead-in crowns came along, that whole issue launched us to regulation. And we were put under the purview of the FDA without any quality systems in place. So then with the absence and the lack of having anything like that on the planet in the US, we adopted DAMAS. And it's an audit system. It follows the CFR fine. It just, like I say, the most auditors understand ISO, and it might have went away because there is ISO. So if you want to get regulated now, or have a quality system in place, DAMAS is still pretty good if you understand it, and you understand ISO. If you look at both of their standards together, you'll find similarities. That's like, oh, this goes in the management review section, or this goes in this section. And then if you are doing your own system, you probably want to title it more like the FDA would have it titled. So
it's a 1-for-1.
Yeah, but they're still the same. But I've told many auditors who come in and go, "What is DAMAS?" No, we're not DAMAS. And I said, yes, you are. You are not. You have no authority to tell me to have a certain type of quality system. As long as I meet your quality system standards, I can have anything I want. I don't have to have ISO. But they kind of muscle you that it doesn't look like what they're used to seeing.
That's getting into some weeds that I don't know anything about, the ISO, and just for the record, FDA, if you're watching this, I don't make aligners or sleep apnea. Just for the record, nothing of that comes through here. So just for the record. So what, Jessie, what would you recommend that first day? Any suggestions to other labs? Like,
yeah, we were told this, and we didn't initially follow it because we were trying to be like such gentlemen. We were trying to like be overachievers, I think. We were told to give him as little information as humanly possible. Like if he asks a question, you answer it so directly, there's no way to misconstrue it. I'll give you an example. He had asked for some of our marketing material. We didn't realize he was asking for the marketing material for our clear aligners specifically, which is why he was there. So we just handed him one of our general welcome packets that we send to new clients. That's when he started noticing all the other appliances, and he had, he had about 1,001 questions about them. We had to push back pretty firmly, and this is when we kind of started getting off really tense with each other, and push back firmly that really he has no jurisdiction over any of the other appliances. But yeah, that's a perfect example. Like the more you give them, like the more they can pick apart. So if he asks for something, you just he or she, you just give it to them just as plain and as simple as possible.
Give them ammunition to use against you.
Yeah, keep your answers really concise, and don't like deviate or really say anything else about yourself or what you do or anything else that goes on. The more you talk, the more you can get in trouble almost.
Well, and that kind of segues right into kind of my next question with Laura. Like, there's a lot of gray areas, is what she put in her great response to Don's Facebook, talking about a UDI, and that they think that there should be a UDI with each appliance. Am I getting that right?
Yeah,
Laura?
absolutely. Anything that's a class 2 medical device needs a UDI on it.
And that's universal,
unique
device identification
identifier. Yeah.
Okay.
And that means every single device should have an identification on it, whether it's a tag, a label, whatever. It doesn't have to be a barcode, although those are the hardest to implement, but the easiest to read and use, universally used. But every device, no matter how big or small, has to have this sort of identifier on it, that if it winds up in some city in Montana in a emergency room, that somebody can find out where that originated from, point of origin. So you have to have your location, your when it was made, and a unique number or identifier that no other device shares.
No other device type or no other device in the world?
Device.
Okay.
Every single device has to be different.
Jessie and Don, did y'all get that question? Like,
oh yeah,
we were prepared for that because we actually hired a FDA consultant to help us with unique identifier because it's so complicated. Everything dealing with the FDA is unbelievably complicated. Just to give them our $10,000 is incredibly complicated. You have to go to 2 different websites. It takes 2 to 3 days to give them your money in the most complicated process.
Laura's laughing. She knows this.
It couldn't be any more difficult. I mean, it's crazy. I thought it was me. And then, I said, Jessie, take a look at this. And we worked on it together. And last year we hired the woman that wrote our 510K to just go ahead and re-register for us because it's so maddening. And so this year we did the same, and she couldn't do it. And she gave it back to us. She said, I don't know why I'm having such a problem. They changed the websites around or whatever. So she gave it back to us. And while the FDA examiner was here, Jessie and I were able to get it done, which was good because one of the issues he had, and he kept going on and on about, was one of the items we were registered, which was the Inman clasp, we don't make anymore. And it bothered him that it was on our listings, even though we didn't make it anymore. So we were able to move that from the listing and show it to him. And we got that checked off of the 100 million things we have to do now.
Well, how much?
100 million.
How much did you have to pay for the scan system of your unique device identifier?
The software part of it, I don't think it was that bad.
No, I don't think it was that bad either.
It's an annual fee like everything anymore. You don't own software anymore. You rent it.
Okay.
I think it's $500 or $600 for the annual fee.
What's that software called?
He had to change a few things, right?
Yes, he did. I don't know, Jesse, do you want to?
Oh, yeah, he had us change a few things. Also, Cade, the software is called Bartender.
I love it because you're going to be drinking afterwards.
Yeah, he had us change a few things. That was one of the things that was another thing we went in super confident. Like Don was saying, we had hired a secondary FDA consultant other than our regular one we hire every year, just for the barcode system. We wanted to get ahead of it just in case anything happened. Like we've always tried to be proactive about being in compliance. And when he asked for when the FDA inspector asked for our UDI stuff, we're like, oh, finally a softball. We're gonna nail this one. And immediately he had issues with it because the code wasn't unique enough. And that was something we were able to figure out with the software company. They were very nice and helped us. They were great. They worked with us. We got that taken care of while the inspector was still here. So like Don said, he was able to check that off on his list. But yeah, there really is a lot that goes into it. And it's even if the wording on these FDA documents, when you're looking at the references, it's just in such like legal jargon that a normal person doesn't like. We think we understand it, but then we find out we've been reading it completely wrong. So that was our experience with the UDI part of the inspection.
So it's not an FDA consultant; it's an FDA translator.
Yes, essentially, yeah.
Does Google Translate have that?
Hey, and just a by the way or FYI, Zendura has an expiration date, and we didn't pick that up, and that had to be part of our UDI. That expiration date was captured.
Because obviously once you make it, it's going to expire while it's in their mouth. Well, I guess if they're okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I think you're getting the picture now.
Yeah, I'm getting a real good picture. I don't want any part of this. Now, you mentioned this, or we talked about a little bit before we went live, was you were going to try to take care of most of the issues while the inspector was there, and that stopped happening. I'll let y'all explain that y'all were trying to do that.
Yeah, we were. I think it was Gary who suggested that some of the issues that he might find will be small enough that you can correct them while he's there. Like the UDI, we were able to correct that while he was there. But we would try to correct them, and we would bring him the correction, and he would literally just throw it back at us and say, that's not what I'm looking for. And we would ask him, well, what are you looking for? And he said, I can't tell you, right?
Yeah,
he can't tell you that.
He said this about a trillion times. He said, I can tell you what I need, but I can't tell you how to do it. And which is very vague and confusing, because we're like, he would say like our document was missing something. Be like, oh, you have a procedure for, I don't know, getting remakes, but you're missing stuff from it. And we'd be like, okay, what are we missing? We can just add it real quick. And you just said, I can't tell you that. Yeah.
So by the second day, we sat down with them and we said, that whole idea of us fixing things while you're here, forget about it.
Yeah.
We're going to plan B.
Yeah.
Plan B is to get you out of here as quick as we can. So how do we do that?
Laura, is that your experience? Does it depend on the inspector?
It does depend on the inspector. I think that I probably would have reconfronted him. Earlier when you said that the best thing to do is to be concise with your answers, true. Keep it as minimal as possible. Yes, no. I'll get that for you.
Just tell him I can't answer this for you.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not supposed to be a quiz. He's not there to put you through your board exams. He's supposed to be there to see if you have certain things in place. He should be able to answer that question. If you don't have a concise answer for him, then you don't understand what he's asking for. If it takes 30 times, you need to say, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I want to be absolutely certain before I go get that invoice that you want, that that's what you want. So there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't understand your question. And if they're like, I don't understand your answer, just say, well, we're at an impasse here.
Yeah.
But, if he's being rude about it, I would definitely take him to task on that. And I would say, look, you're here in my home. I didn't come to you. You came to me, and I would want respect for that. And we have work to do. Like you said, he wanted all three of you there. That is not necessary. Usually when I do an inspection, you have a management representative. And obviously, you're all going to be there for the sign-in and the introduction. From then on, your management representative should be able to be enough for them to get what they need. If your MR needs to go and ask you a question, Jessie or Don, I mean, maybe they have a question that they don't have the answer to. You can help facilitate that, but you should not have to be there the whole time. And so I have had one inspector where I've actually asked for their manager's name and phone number because I'd like to call them. And at that point, he backed down. I said, all I'm asking for is courtesy.
Right.
Tell me your manager is not going to tell you to extend us courtesy. We may be wrong. We may have mistakes. We may not understand things, but you can be courteous about that. I will not have this. So I would definitely push back on that kind of attitude. But yeah, you have every right to ask, I don't understand, or say, I don't understand, or ask a question. And they should be up front and forward with you. And a lot of times they think they know the answers and they don't. They don't know anything about a dental lab. They'd much rather be in a big medical facility where they can act like that, militant and military. But
that was one of my questions was, what do you think the FDA as a whole, all your experience, what do they think they struggle with the most in dental labs?
That we're a completely different animal.
That we're not making widgets. We're not
we're not
lever.
doing lots. We're not doing batches. And I think even Don and Jessie's FDA person who helped them with the UDI was thinking lots and batches when they were doing daily amounts. You know, they don't put a different number on every sheet of your suck down material.
Right.
It's lots and batches, and that's what he's thinking. He doesn't have a concept of a customized device, and they usually don't understand the customized device. Anything that's customized, it kind of freaks them out a little bit. Now, the systems can still be the same. You can quite simply still have a system. They don't need to know how customized you are. Although I have that pretty clearly stated in my quality manual so that they understand. But, you know, you can get around that sort of stuff. I had a gal once who was, her specialty was spiders. And she's very new to it. And to make a long story short, we had an investigation where once we told them that we no longer do class 2 medical devices at this particular laboratory, they send them out. So there's no class 2 medical devices being made here. She said, well, you make crowns, right? And we said, yeah, we make crowns. And she says, well, that's a class 2 medical device. And of course, I knew that was a class 1 medical device. I'm like, no, that's not true. And she said, it's absolutely true. It says right here in my book. And she had this little tiny directory book, right? She'd go through her pages. And she says, it says right here. And I says, where? And she says, she took her book back. She wouldn't let me see it.
What in the world?
And I said, so I've spent the last couple of days here copying information for you, being courteous to you, giving you all the time that you need. And you will not show me your little pocketbook that you are receiving information from that I believe is incorrect? And she said, well, I can't give this to you. I said, well, you can give it to me. And I suggest you do. I'd like to see what you are reading. I have every right to see where you are getting your reference from. So she opened the book and I looked at it, and it is a prosthetic crown is a class 2 device, but they were denture teeth that were made in a manufacturing facility that the class 2 lies with them in the 510K. So go and audit them. And so she went out to her car. She called her manager. She came back. She was in tears and she left.
She was in tears?
Yeah, we never heard from her again.
Whoa.
I mean, so they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. If you understand it well enough, you can debate them, but not all of our lab constituents do. So that's kind of hard, but I give Jessie and Don so much credit for having gotten as far as they did. I mean, you have to go through 3 or 4 of these audits just to feel as comfortable as I do. I mean, The first one is like a arrow through the heart, right?
Or a Christmas tree.
Yeah, or the Christmas tree method, same thing. But I mean, they really have always been, and if you all know Donald and Jessie, they've always been ahead of the curve and doing it right. Right.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So if they're under scrutiny and being treated like that, I can only imagine what others would go through. So, I mean, they were at least partway there, which is probably why they did get away with 4 days.
Mhm.
You know, they had the earnest to be able to say, look, we'll fix this stuff, whatever. Thanks for coming in.
Well, and y'all were mentioned before, y'all were coming up on the Christmas break, and that was, again, arrow through the heart, heartbreaking. You're trying to get ahead, and you said you were going to take an extra time off this time. Were y'all still able to do that, or
Yes.
recovering too much?
Yeah,
y'all needed to after that. Y'all needed the extra break.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to go back to is, so the first day, and Jessie was kind enough not to point the finger at me, but I was the moron that gave him our catalog, and he started looking through that catalog, and he's like, all this stuff should be registered. Everything in here should be registered. And, everything in here moves teeth and does this and does that. I mean, think about this. Clear liners have to be registered, right? A class 2 device. A Hyrax is a type 1 device.
Getting a suture.
Yeah, you're splitting an actual bone.
That one alone blows my mind. But we reached out when he went to lunch. We reached out to Bennett at the NADL, and they sent a document over to us to show them, and they said their counsel would be happy to speak to him about why our type 1 devices were exempt. And then that night, when he left us, he called his boss. And when he came in the next day, it went from everything we were doing to just strictly the clear aligners. He had forgotten about everything, the catalog, everything else. And it was just all about our clear aligners for the next 3 days.
I forget who commented that in the Facebook comment, something about it was along that same line where they had to call their manager, and the manager said, well, dental labs are confusing. Was that Laura that said that? And they always seem to have to call their manager about dental labs because we're confusing.
Right.
That might have even been me. I'm not sure, because he did tell us, he called I think it was me, that he admitted to us. And there's not a doubt in our mind that this was the first dental lab he ever saw.
Right.
So imagine visiting a place that makes heart catheters and comparing it to a dental lab.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
That's what we were up against.
That is so much. Well, we got like 15 minutes left, and I kind of wanted to end. Is there anything else about that trip before I move to what we can do in the future to help the industry? Is there anything else about his? Did he clock in same time every day? Left the same time every day?
Yeah, he actually wanted us to stay like later than we normally do. He was quite demanding of all of our time and everything like that. And eventually we were kind of scared of him at first, but eventually we kind of, like Laura said, this is our place of business. Like you can ask for certain documentation and things like that, but we're not going to be pushed around. And it's funny because he's there to investigate the clear liners. He had a problem with, I'll just do 2 quick examples. He asked for our training records from some of our employees, and the employees he picked were 2 that he knew had been here longer than 20 years. He specifically knew that. He asked for their training records. Guess what? 20 years ago, we didn't keep them. We were in like 4 buildings ago.
Right.
Probably before the FDA was really even involved in our stuff. And we didn't have those, and he threw a fit about that. But the one thing he had no issue with was when he actually watched us fabricate clear aligners from start to finish.
So that was part of his inspection is to actually watch y'all
Yeah,
produce.
That was the shortest part.
that was the shortest part when he saw it, and he saw how simple it was.
One material.
Yeah, a plastic model, one material, cut it, polish it, out the door. Once he saw that, and he saw that we use pretty basic tools, whether it's a heated up knife or scissors or whatever the technician likes to use, it's pretty bare bones, very simple. And I think it kind of blew some air out of his sails or whatever, because he kind of understood that the whole time we kept trying to tell him, I don't think you understand how simple this appliance is.
Yeah.
And then when he actually saw it get made, it really brought him down. And then that's when he decided to actually take a day out of the investigation. He said, I'm not going to come tomorrow. I'll come on Wednesday. Once he saw that, well, very early on, he had conceded that everything we do is low risk to the public and for health, which was nice. Like, we knew we were missing paperwork and stuff like that. That's kind of,
But we were causing no harm.
yeah, causing no harm. So we knew, like, what was that?
Yeah, that's the whole point of FDA.
That's the whole point of the FDA inspection is safety, patient safety. It's all about patient safety.
And so
you're not a detriment to humanity in what you're doing.
Yeah, he knew very early on we were never going to make anything that really could hurt anybody. Right. So it was all just kind of bureaucracy stuff with paperwork. So even though we knew we were going to get kind of slapped on the wrist or in trouble about that, we didn't have that fear of like things getting really out of hand for
being
us.
shut down. We never felt like that was going to happen.
Yeah.
What was the slap on the wrist? Was it, you said there was written?
Yeah, we have six
and verbal.
6 verbal, which are less serious, and 10 written. And then we basically, I don't know, basically what we, at the last thing they do with you, Laura, I can't remember what it's called, but it's, basically he goes over his findings with you, and you get an opportunity to respond. And what they're looking for is a response where you're making a commitment to correct the errors that he saw. And not just you're going to make this commitment to correct them, but you are going to correct them within a certain amount of time. And that was, that was the final half a day with him was that. And then our FDA consultant followed it up with a letter to the FDA going over exactly the same thing, making similar commitments to correct the issues that they found.
Laura, does that seem to be the same across the board, depending on what type of dental lab you're in?
That part's consistent. They'll give you a report of what their findings were and their exit interview. And that's when the manager and the owner all have to be there again, all the important people.
Do they give you a time? Like, you got to fix them by, or we're going to be back?
No, they don't. They generally ask you to go ahead and respond. And, it's advisable to give them a time when you think you'll have it done by. I've never had anyone say, hey, you got to get it done in 6 months. But I remember working with Gary and that back in the day. And it was always good to file a response physically, and like you said, with your advisor, but directly to the FDA, and then to give them a time that you think that you can have it done by. I've yet to see them ever come back, but I don't know if they do.
Yeah, so your 7 different FDAs, were they all of them in different labs?
Yeah.
Or so lightning doesn't strike twice?
California also has their own FDA.
What?
Yeah, once we
of course they would.
Once we managed the hurdle of getting our 510Ks and patents and all that on sleep appliances over at Microdental, and they're a large group of laboratories. We had our FDA inspection, and we were finally skating. We did well on it. Everything was great, and then I got a call from California FDA for an inspection. I was like, wait a minute.
Who are you?
The national FDA? What? California FDA? Yeah.
Oh man, that
was fun.
I couldn't imagine going through that.
At least we're
Now,
ready.
as far as ortho, Laura, you had mentioned something about even if you make 1,000 different appliances, most manufacturing steps are the same. Simplest way is break it down to 3 categories. Is this like a suggestion maybe for the FDA?
I mean, if you were looking to put in a quality system, a lot of technicians, like, I think the biggest problem we run into as technicians that are looking to be compliant with the FDA, if you're not, then this is irrelevant. But if you are going through this process, the FDA is looking for certain structural pieces of information. And so we see ourselves as creating art, right? And so we're more focused on that than we are focused on, if you really had to break down every single appliance you made, it's probably metal and acrylic.
Yeah. Metal,
right?
or acrylic, or a combination.
Or combination.
Yeah.
And so really, if you just wrote up the SOPs for good metal design or good solder work or welding, what are the quality assurance steps on that? It would apply to 50% of your products. It's just off, wires off the tissue by this much, it's just, everything, there's no nicks in the wires. It's not that hard to put together one standard that almost fits all of your appliances, except for the combo ones, which you're going to combine the acrylic and the wire, you know what I mean? So it's not that hard to do SOPs, but they do want to see them. They want to see them in a book, and the audits I was always at, they wanted to see them at every workstation.
Oh, really?
You didn't have to have, but if you think about it, it was still only 2 cards hanging at a workstation. One was metal and one was acrylic.
Right.
Little cards, you can hang them on a ring or whatever. So I mean, they just want to see that you have systems in place. That's all. Like the whole educational records, your training records on a 20-year employee. That's, if you have a book, with training records, I have one of those. So it's a little one, but my question would be at that point, look, that's a 20-year employee. Can I show you when I implemented this system and our recent quality, training documents? But you may not have that. So you may not have offered that. But yeah, I mean, it's like you should be able to talk to them about that. But if you are trying to put in a quality system, it's not that hard really to put. We always think that there's so much involved in our HERPs. It's just, this is an advanced technician doing it. But bottom line, it's your QC points. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah.
If you see your stuff out the door, that's an SOP basically. Is every technician meeting that? Has every technician signed off on the fact that they know that's what they're supposed to do? And then you keep that document. So it's a lot of documentation. But yeah.
Would you recommend that we've talked about approaching the FDA and registering? What's the downsides of not registering with the FDA? Like we talked about, they don't know you exist, right? I don't want legally.
Until they do.
I'm not suggesting this, but just asking the question.
Well, they don't know you exist until you do. I mean,
right.
Let's face it. Nobody in the world knows we exist.
That's true.
We are the men in black.
Yeah. Right? Redheaded stepchildren. Sorry, Jessie.
So, I mean, when you think about that, they don't get what you do, and they certainly don't get customizable. They don't understand that. The doctor's allowed to do artwork. We're allowed to actually say, you know what, I don't think this is going to work, so I'm going to do this for the doctor. And that's where labs get in trouble, because if an auditor comes around and starts talking to some of your technicians, which is also, you need to teach them how to handle the auditor, because they think they have a God complex. I can do this. Well, I just do this. Well, the doctor doesn't know what he's doing. So we just, look, the doctor gives me all this junk. So far, you've already lost him, but he's tuning into the fact that none of your choices and your decisions are being documented. You're just going ahead and switching up a wire size, or that the doctor likes this, but it's not documented. So you get in all kinds of trouble when you're talking to technicians. way worse than the managers and the owners. So you have to be really careful of that. But for the most part, I don't know about the whole registering. I'm not a legal authority on that. I know by law, if you're making a class 2 medical device, you need to be registered. Now, is everybody doing it? I don't know. Not everybody was doing it that was doing sleep appliances.
Right.
A lot of people are doing aligners, and like you say, they're not a huge health risk to the public, but I do think that it's very, very costly. I don't know if it's worth all this, and I've never seen the gain. It's like a zero-sum game. I'm paying $10,000 for this, and I do not see other labs being shut down who are not paying $10,000 for this. I'm trying to be compliant, and I'm being treated terrible by my auditors. There's no leeway given to my manager or my owner who's getting an audit, whose wife suddenly has to go in the hospital, or there's a crisis, and they won't delay or, take that into account. There's no humanity in the process whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so it's like, should you go ahead and register? I don't know. I did. I'm a compliant person. I didn't want to get in trouble. And I was also, I have to set an example as well, being that, I was kind of a subject matter expert in class 2 devices and quality systems. Obviously, I'm going to get registered, but I don't know where the gain came from. There was, plenty of people not abiding by it.
We kind of have that in Texas, where you have to register your lab with the state of Texas.
Yeah.
But then people come and complain about these unregistered labs, and the state of Texas is like, there's nothing we can do. They're not registered. We can't take their license away until they get a license.
Yeah. Hello. You could help with the enforcement.
Yeah.
Job. But it's, it's just like the whole CDT thing, right? It's voluntary.
Right. Yeah.
And I believe in being the certification to my core, and that's my own ethics. So I would be registered, but others, Jessie and Don are registered, and they try doing the right thing. But I'm not really even sure they need to be registered for what they're doing for sleep appliances. Yeah, but I don't know.
Well, that's the thing is like you said, the FDA inspector, it's about the patient. Yeah. And make sure things are safe for the patient. And correct. So as being registered, you're taking that extra step, saying, kind of like being a CDT, you're taking an extra step saying, I'm validating what I do, and it's a better price. Right. But then you got to, price-wise, you got somebody not registered on the street doesn't have to pay the dues, and they can charge a cheaper price.
Yeah.
We're actually thinking about charging, and we've been bouncing it around, but just for our clear aligners, and it won't matter how many aligners are in the series, but something like $5 FDA compliance fee, because there is a real expense to this.
Yeah.
$10,000 is, we'll just use simple math. If you make 10% on your appliances, larger labs are a little tighter that way. But if you make 10% on your appliances, you have to do $100,000 of work to pay that $10,000 FDA fee. So,
yeah,
that's something to think about.
Yeah,
and
but then you're back to that whole pricing issue. Doctors don't like to be nickel-dimed, and do they really care if you're FDA approved?
Yeah. You might send your competitor more work by charging that fee, but it's
might be better off just outsourcing.
Yeah.
Well, if they're a good doctor, they would appreciate you're doing that, and go, oh, you're FDA compliant. Right. What about this guy? Oh, there's nothing saying that he's doing this. I didn't even know you had to with aligners. And I know doctors get the loophole. They can do them in-house because it falls under their dental license.
Right.
And FDA, that's why I do Essex with resets and not aligners. I don't do aligners. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, we got about a minute left. I want to talk about the ORG like, do y'all have a vision, Laura or Jessie or Don, of what could like a nonprofit association? I know you mentioned something about doing like a boilerplate for these 510Ks. You want to expand on that? Like, where could we go with this?
Well, I'll let Laura take it over in a second because she probably has some ideas. But when you look at all this, and again, I'll try to hold this up. When you look at all this, a lot of this, any ortho lab would do it the same way because we've been doing things the same way, for the law.
Look at Laura's.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Honest to God, a lot of it, it's just.
But you know why I did that? You know why I have them in separate books? I have them in separate books because I give it to them when they need it. I don't let them rifle through my entire library.
See, that's some experience talking right there.
But wouldn't you think that so much of this could be boilerplate? And then I'm asking Laura because just looking through the documentations that we have, it's so much of it's standard, and then labs could customize it as needed.
Yeah. I have my whole system on a flash drive and I can customize it anytime. It's all Word documents. You just got to be following it. But I'd be happy to share it. Yeah.
But I think that's something.
The book covers, the binders, everything.
And maybe we can talk more about that, especially at the conference. Shameless plug. The 2025 ORG conference, it's April 4th and 5th at the Westin Dallas Fort Worth Airport. That's a long name for a conference, but we're in conjunction with the DLAT, and I think this would be a great topic. I may talk to Phil, who's in charge, Phil Pellegra, who's in charge of maybe set aside some time for the FDA, those that are registered or are thinking about registered to talk, and Laura, do you offer a service for labs?
No, I mean, sometimes people reach out to me and I send them everything I can, I just help anybody who needs
helping out the system. Maybe we'll bring you in as a consultant for the ORG.
Sure.
But
great idea.
Yeah, I think so too. Any last words or thoughts about the experience you had?
Nothing that we didn't really cover. It's just, I guess based on everything I've heard, it really just depends on your inspector. And hopefully you don't get as unlucky as us.
Good thing you went through the fire first with I don't want to say a bad one, an inexperienced one.
Yeah. Hopefully the next one's a little bit better.
And maybe you help train him for the next dental lab he goes into, that he knows what to expect.
Yeah, I think that would make a big difference if the inspector has some dental lab experience.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if the FDA had a dedicated dental lab industry, heart valve, industry inspectors, and that would be that just seems like something.
They could leave us alone.
Yeah,
too.
I'd like them.
They could just leave us alone.
Yeah.
I guess my best recommendation, if you were to get an audit or a walk-in or somebody gives you a phone call because somewhere you advertise that you're doing invisible retainers or aligners, first off, if you have no systems in place, you're caught completely unaware, I definitely give NADL a call and talk to Bennett or counsel. Give Gary a call at SafeLink.
Yes.
Call me if you want. But you got to figure out how you're going to approach it. But for those of your listeners who are actually trying to put a quality system in place, want to put a quality system in place, I think I don't think I've mentioned the fact that it is really helpful. It is a good thing to have. I mean, we've been running it all down, but there's no point in doing it just to do it. the only point to doing the only good thing about doing it is if you're actually living it, if you're living the document and you're living the system, right? So if you're actually entering your remakes into it, if you actually do management reviews, and you never have before, but it makes you do management reviews, it makes you document training, which you've never done before. Those are all really good things, putting out your standards. So, I mean, I would just say be careful that when they are coming in, that you are running the show. You don't,
you're in charge, not them.
Overly confident. You don't have to be smiley and overly welcoming and hope that your nice personality is going to help. It's probably not. You probably just want to be as businesslike as you can, as if you're going in for applying for a loan. You know what I mean? You're going to be serious. If you don't understand the question, you ask the question. There's a whole list of audit steps for when they come in and what you should be doing. They're not allowed to videotape. They're not allowed to audio tape, take photos or anything like that. So you need to know your responsibilities and their responsibilities. And so you always maintain decorum with them. Put them in a quiet spot. If you have all the notebooks like I do or whatever, that's what goes there, and they can ask you questions from there. But you got to be real careful about what you say. And like Jessie said it most succinctly, is just to be very brief with your answers and very accurate. And if you're not sure, don't answer. Ask again. Ask for clarification.
Good advice.
Yeah. And I appreciate y'all coming on. I'm going to end it there. We're at an hour. Hey, some of us have to go make some retainers and things. So I'll leave it there. Jessie and Don, thank you so much for opening up your experience with everybody. That we've all been worried about this happening to us. So it's good to hear a fellow lab going through the same thing. So thank y'all.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And Laura, thank you for your wealth of knowledge. What you've given us, it almost makes me feel better. Just saying, hey, you're in control. You own the lab, and don't let them forget that. Yeah. So
I mean, you got to be courteous.
So
bite their head off before they walk in the door.
Yeah, don't act like you're taking your daughter on a date and show up with a shotgun when they open the door.
Right.
I am in Texas. It could happen.
Could happen.
So with all that, dental things, super helpful information. Oh yeah, this was definitely a great topic. So I'm going to end it there. Y'all stay on. I'm going to end the stream, and I'll see everybody in the next random ORG podcast, and see y'all all at the conference if y'all can come make it. We'd love to talk more about this. So until then, next time, I will see y'all later. Thanks again.
Take care.